Hey, seventh graders, it's me, Mr. Stark. We're here today, and we're still talking about trees. Today, I want to talk a little bit about roots of the tree and the functions. Thus far, we've talked about the leaf section of a tree. We've talked about what the importance of the leaves are. The leaves are they're kind of like big solar panels. They absorb the sun's energy, and they're very instrumental in the process of making food for the plant, photosynthesis. The food is the food type is glucose, a sugar that's made in the leaves and then pumped back down through the trunk and to the roots. So roots today, and what are their functions? There are four main functions of the root system. The first function of the root system is anchorage. Okay, they anchor that tree down. The roots help to anchor it in the soil. As they penetrate the soil, they search for new sources of water and minerals and help to further secure the tree in the soil. So take a look at this picture. I'm going to try and zoom in on it a little bit. See how this works here and maybe there. There we go. Keep going right there. And you can notice that in this picture, there's kind of a shadowing effect. I'd say this is the ground, this is above the ground, and this is the root system below the ground. But if you really look at it closely, I put it in there on purpose because this is an exact replica or a mirror image of what is above ground. That tree also has below ground, okay? And that's realistic. If you're going to transplant a tree, if you're going to move one tree from one area to another, you really need to dig all the dirt and soil out underneath that tree, all the way to the edge of the tree. So if you look at this tree and water were falling on the edge of the tree here, some rain was falling, all that rain would drip in what we call the drip edge and would fall in this area where these really fine root hairs would be, the lateral roots and the tips of the roots would be, and that's where all the absorption takes place. So anchorage, the more that they search out, the more that they're better able that they are to anchor. When there is water that's deeper in the soil, minerals deeper in the soil, the tree is better able to anchor itself. If it's really dry and that tree has to send all its roots out along the surface, then they tend not to be as anchored as well. Okay, so anchorage is number one. Number two is storage. Once a tree or a plant makes some sugar with the leaves, collecting the sunlight with the chloroplast and the chlorophyll in the leaves that make them green, the plant itself will then try and store excess sugar that's not being used or excess glucose not being used in the roots. Here's some really good examples of that. Some of those you might be familiar with. We have a carrot here. We probably have another type of carrot. There's a radish. There's an onion. There's a rutabaga and a turnip. So these are all, and I think this is a ginger root. Anyways, those are all things that store their energy in the root system below the ground. Storage. Roots may store large amounts of energy to reserve below the ground for the plant. Some trees reserve stores of energy underground, which enables it to re-sprout when they're cut down. So an example would be like a popple tree. Once you cut them down, and if you leave the stumps, very often the root system will send up a new shoot that will become a new tree. That's great for regeneration of the trees and reforestation. One of the problems is that those shoots or those things that come up off the root system are the sprouts that come off the root system are identical twins to what the parent was. So if one of them gets a disease, then they're all going to get a disease. So they're clones. They don't have the ability to make any genetic variation or genetic changes to make them stronger or better able to survive diseases or changes in the environment. Third function of the root system is absorption. Absorption. They absorb water and minerals for use in the plant, mostly for the use of photosynthesis and making food. So you can see here, I'll zoom in on this, we have a root system, we have a taproot going down, we have lateral roots going to the side, and we have smaller little root hairs going off, reaching into areas that the lateral roots cannot reach to. And the blue represents water going in, the green would be minerals, things of that nature, and it would be absorbing those things, bringing those up into the plant. The carbon dioxide, which would come in through the leaves, and the minerals, let's say the iron and the nitrogen and things like that, that say you're a potato plant, when the farmers would put nitrogen on the field to help them grow better. It would absorb that stuff through the root system up into the plant, which will help better able the potato plants grow. So this is absorption of water and minerals, and it goes in from a lot of different directions. Zooming back out to our fourth function of the root system, that is conduction. So once the root system is there, it's established, we've made food, we've made sugar, it may have been stored. Sometimes we have to conduct, we have to move some of that stuff, that sugar, those food, that glucose, to other parts of the plant to help it maybe regenerate new leaves, to help the plant grow, to help the health of the plant. So conduction, the roots transport the water and dissolved minerals they have absorbed to the stem and onto the rest of the tree. So they bring that up, they conduct those things, the water and minerals, up the trunk and to the leaves and to the entire tree. We're now going to take a closer look at what the root itself would be doing, or what it would look like, the anatomy of the root. So we have some notes here: the zone of maturation, the root hair zone, zone of elongation, zone of cell division, and a root cap. Okay, those will make a little bit more sense when you start seeing this little diagram here. Okay, so maybe we'll shrink this down just a tad so we can fit it all on there. All right. This is a root. This is an older root. We can tell because it has some root hairs on it. They're kind of like whiskers on. I would equate them to whiskers on a person. The older you are, typically the more you have. We'll start with just this whole root system, this whole root thing here. This would be kind of like the taproot. On the very tip of the taproot, there is a root cap that kind of protects the tip of the root from getting damaged too much in this area here. Underneath the root cap, there is an apical meristem. This is an area where the root actually develops new cells, gives birth to new cells, and this root cap has a bunch of cells like a callus or a scab over the end of it that protects it as this root pushes deeper and deeper and deeper into the soil. These cells are born, they mature in here, which would be the region of elongation. So these cells are increasing in size and getting longer and longer and elongating the root and pushing it deeper into the soil. Up at the top is the oldest region. It is the zone of maturation. It's where it has root hairs. It has little tiny hairs that reach out to the side into areas where this root, the taproot, is not reaching. The area is covered with hairs. that aids in absorption. They increase the surface area by 5 to 20 times. And they grow into new soil that hasn't been covered already. So, kind of reviewing that, we have the zone of maturation. It's the oldest. It has the most root hairs. It digs off to the side and gathers nutrients and water and minerals from areas that are not reached by the taproot. Elongation, this is where these cells that are born in the apical meristem are growing, enlarging, maturing, and getting bigger. And as they get bigger, they push this root to actually grow and elongate down into the soil. The zone of cell division, this is where the cells are being born, and they're baby cells, and then they will continue, they will grow and increase in size. And then finally we have this root cap over the top that protects the tip of the root so that where the cells are being born, that area, that tip is not being damaged.